So what is it that really separates a good product from a truly great one? It's rarely just one single brilliant idea. It's a mindset. It's a structured way of thinking that can take total chaos and turn it into crystal clarity. Today, we're going to unpack the mental frameworks that the best product managers use to build products that, well, consistently win.
All right, let's kick things off with a story about a product manager named Tia. Her experience, I think, perfectly captures a core problem that even the most talented teams face, this constant struggle with misalignment. You know that feeling of just running in circles?
This quote from Tia is just so relatable, isn't it? Her team was brilliant. They'd come to meetings armed with data, they'd make these super compelling arguments, and everyone would nod and agree on a path forward. But that alignment, it never lasted. It's because the team was basically speaking three different languages. You had the language of the customer, the language of the product, and the language of the business, with absolutely nothing to tie them all together.
And here's the real kicker. The problem wasn't that they weren't smart enough. It was a total lack of alignment. The team was missing a shared mental framework, a common language to connect all their individual efforts. That is the power of structured thinking, and we're going to explore it at three different levels: for the company, for the team, and for you, the individual.
Okay, let's start at the very top, the entire company. To solve that huge alignment problem, you need a compass, one single point of reference for the whole organization. And that is exactly the purpose of the North Star framework. Now, a North Star metric isn't just another KPI you throw on a dashboard, like revenue or daily active users. It has to do two absolutely critical things. First, it has to capture the core value that customers actually get from your product. And second, it has to be a leading indicator of success, meaning it predicts future results. It doesn't just report on what already happened.
Think of your North Star metric as this one single point of light for everybody. When your marketing team, your engineering team, and your product team are all laser-focused on moving the exact same core metric, their decisions just naturally start to align. It cuts right through all the complexity and focuses the entire company on what truly matters, delivering value to your customers.
This difference is so important. A lagging indicator, like monthly revenue, is like looking in your car's rearview mirror. Yeah, it's useful to see what you passed, but it doesn't help you steer. A leading indicator, on the other hand, is like your dashboard and your GPS combined. It's focused on the behaviors and actions that will get you to your destination. Things like a user successfully completing a key action that you know leads to them sticking around long term. You can actually influence it.
And here's a perfect real-world example of this. The digital team at Burger King could have just focused on revenue, right? But that's a lagging indicator. Instead, they chose digital transactions per user as their North Star. So why'd they do that? Well, because they know that if they can get people to order more often through the app, revenue is going to naturally follow. It's a brilliant leading indicator that focuses the team on creating a great, repeatable digital experience.
Okay, so the North Star aligns the whole company. But how do individual teams innovate within that alignment? How do they solve problems without just, copying what their competitors are doing? That requires a totally different kind of framework, a blueprint for thinking from first principles.
Elon Musk is, of course, famous for this. Reasoning by analogy just means you're doing something because that's how it's always been done, or because that's what your competitor is doing. But first principles thinking forces you to stop and ask, what are the absolute, fundamental truths of this situation? You literally break a problem down to its most basic parts and then build a solution from the ground up.
The process sounds deceptively simple. Step 1, figure out the real problem, not just the symptoms you see on the surface. Step 2, deconstruct it. Challenge every single assumption you have until you're left with only the fundamental truths. You're basically trying to find the physics of the problem. And then finally, step 3, you rebuild your solution from that solid foundation of truth.
So what does this actually look like in practice? Well, let's take product-led growth. Instead of just copying a competitor's onboarding flow, a first principles approach would ask, what is fundamentally true for a PLG product to succeed? Well, users have to get value, and they have to get it fast. That value has to be repeatable, something they come back for. The product needs to spread on its own, and it should be kind of hard for them to leave. These are the truths, not a competitor's feature list, that become the blueprint for your strategy.
So, we've covered the company compass and the team blueprint. But where do these frameworks get tested the most intensely? Well, a lot of the time, it's at the individual level, smack in the middle of the high-stakes pressure of a job interview. It's like a gauntlet designed to see if you can truly think on your feet.
PM interviews usually boil down to testing two core skills. First, you've got product sense. Can you take a vague, open-ended question and design a really thoughtful solution? And second is analytical thinking, often called a debugging question. Can you methodically figure out why a key metric has suddenly changed? Without a framework, trust me, both of these are incredibly difficult.
Let's start with product sense. Imagine you're in an interview, you're sitting in the hot seat, and you get this question. The temptation is to just jump straight into listing features. Oh, I'd add a button for this, or maybe a social feature for that. But that's a classic mistake.
A great candidate resists that urge. They don't jump to solutions. They use a structure like this one. They always start by clarifying. Then they zero in on a specific user and their core problem. And only then do they start brainstorming. This methodical approach isn't just a formula. It shows you have empathy, you have strategic thinking, and you have the ability to bring order to ambiguity, all totally crucial PM skills.
Now for the other side of the coin, analytical thinking. You're the PM, and a critical metric just tanked. Panic is not an option. Your interviewer wants to see a calm, logical, and exhaustive investigation.
And here's the framework for that. You don't guess, you investigate. First, you define the metric with absolute precision. What exactly is revenue? Is the job on mobile or desktop? Is it in a specific country? Then you explore all the possible causes, both internal, like a recent code release, and external, like a competitor launching a new campaign. Finally, you form a clear hypothesis and you outline your next steps to prove or disprove it. Just look at these common traps. Every single one of them is a failure of structured thinking. Jumping straight into solutions without defining the user problem first. That's a trap. Using vague metrics like engagement instead of defining success clearly. Another trap. A solid framework is your defense against falling into any of these holes.
So, we've looked at a company-wide compass, a team-level blueprint, and an individual gauntlet. So what's the big takeaway here? What is the one single idea that connects the North Star, first principles, and all these interview strategies?
Here's the thread that ties it all together. These frameworks aren't just some rigid rules you have to memorize. They are mental models. They are designed to force structured, methodical, and deeply user-focused thinking. They are the tools you use to turn chaos into clarity, whether you're setting a company vision or just trying to answer a really tough interview question.
And that really brings us to the end. The real power of these frameworks isn't just knowing about them, it's actually applying them. So I'll leave you with this question, to take back to your own work. What is one core assumption you hold about your product, your users, or your market that you could challenge today using first principles? The answer might just unlock your next big breakthrough.